All right, welcome everybody to the IDP Guys Award Show. I'm joined with today with Grant. What's going on, Grant?
Not much. Just excited to get to wrap up the NFL season, wrap up our fantasy football season, and now give out the awards.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're joined by our winners from the IDP Guys Best Ball Extravaganza, which we put on with Fan Tracks, and that winner was Sebastian Ulaman. And then we had David Kelly, the IDP Guys Invitational winner, and we will get to them here shortly. But we're also going to talk about our writers here at the end and, give out some awards that way. This is going to be a pretty awesome show. A lot of great information we're going to talk about. But you know what, Grant? How was your year? As a content creator, as a football fan, what did you think?
Man, what a great year we had. First of all, just coming into the company in July and watching us grow the amount we did in just the short little time that from then to now, which was unbelievable. As far as my fantasy football year, I ended up winning my league championship.
Awesome.
And couldn't be happier. So $250 in my pocket. And then how can you argue with 17 weeks of football, the NFL's longest season? I mean, can't complain
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting off at the Expo in August was just a great start for the year, for the season here, and then getting to watch, some preseason football there in Canton, Ohio, all the way up until next week. This coming week is going to be Super Bowl Sunday. And just, for me, seeing Matt Stafford go to the Rams and take them all the way to the Super Bowl. I've been following them since week one, since before, when obviously, Stafford on the Lions, I absolutely loved him. But when the trade happened, I knew it was going to be something special, and here we are, we're seeing it. So, what do you think? Do you think Baker Mayfield could leave the Browns and then probably hit a Super Bowl?
I'm hoping not. I'm hoping he stays here in Cleveland because I think this year was injury ridden for not only him but almost the whole team. So I think with a healthy Baker Mayfield, we'll be back in the playoffs.
Gotcha. And for me in the Lions, I look to Cincinnati and Joe Burrow and what they were able to do, and say, hey, if you can go into a draft and get your franchise quarterback, it's really inspiring to see that guy be able to take his team to the Super Bowl in the second year with his favorite wide receiver from college there, Jamar Chase. That was absolutely exciting. And you being in Ohio, like, what's that like for you? I mean, you're a fan of a different team, but it's still got to be kind of electric.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different because I'm Northeast Ohio, so it's mostly Browns fans. But I do have friends that are Bengals fans. They're blowing up social media. They're excited. One of my friends was posting he was crying. So it's been a long time coming for these Bengals fans and kids my age. They've never been able to send a text about a Bengals win. So, uh, which is
There we
very
go. Yeah.
now they get to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. So what do you got planned for Super Bowl? Are you doing a party, going to a party, going to a bar, or some sort of event?
Haven't really thought about it yet because honestly, the Super Bowl's sitting weird with me because I know this could have been the Browns' year.
Mm,
Knowing Cincinnati made it, so this
mm.
this one's not. I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, I'm not looking forward to it.
Gotcha. So you might be, at home, crying into a bucket of wings while, the other Ohio savior makes it and maybe wins
Yeah,
a championship here.
and
So,
honestly, I'm torn because I don't want to see OBJ get his ring because of what
mm,
happened in Cleveland, but I don't want to see the Bengals get their ring before the Browns. So it's a tough one.
gotcha. Well, yeah, it is. I am definitely rooting for Stafford, and OBJ is bounced around, been a little bit of the butt of the joke, but hey, he came in clutch and he's been playing pretty lights out. since joining that team. So him,
Absolutely.
and then Cooper Cup, man, that guy is just winning the essentially the triple crown as a wide receiver with receptions, yards, touchdowns for the season. It's been inspiring football as absolutely, and
Y-
looking forward to the culmination with the Super Bowl.
And Detroit's being represented very well at the Super Bowl too.
Oh yeah, we got Eminem and Stafford, right there. So it's almost like Detroit being in the Super Bowl, as some might be saying. But yeah, so we're talking about last season and all of that, but I also want to look forward and what are you most interested in getting into this season? As so you are the video editor, the YouTube manager for the IDP guys. What's coming down the pike?
Listen, if you are intrigued by videos and you learn visually, I think what we have coming down the pipe is something that you'd be very interested in. We're going to be throwing out more videos. We found success in videos such as the waiver wire late in the season, so videos like that will definitely be coming out more frequently and earlier in the season. So we also have we're talking about a series of videos where we're going to teach beginners on how to get into IDP, get into dynasty football, fantasy football. So it's something exciting. So make sure you're liked and subscribed to our channel.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're watching this on YouTube, or if not, make sure and go over YouTube, like and subscribe to IDP Guys Network, and you'll get more great content coming this year, as well as go to idpguys.org and sign up and become a subscriber. We have a ton of great stuff for our subscribers, from super deep rankings, 700 plus players in with IDP. We have tools. We have some really great premium articles, and we're just gonna get started and go this year, because we have a ton of awesome initiatives that we're going to be launching, and things that are going on. So be part of that.
So
Definitely be
Nate,
part of that.
one of the best tools we have is our drafting tool, and
Yeah, the projection scoring tool, which you input your scoring into, and it will adjust and give you rankings that are custom to your league. This
now
is, yep,
I was gonna say I can tell you from experience from winning my championship, I didn't have to go out and get very many waiver wire additions because of this drafting tool. It set me up for success from the beginning.
that's awesome. Yeah, and it's only going to get better. We still have to refresh it for the new year, as things have changed, and we have to get some projections going for the coming season. But once it's ready and going, I would highly recommend it for your startup drafts, for your redrafts, and just utilizing it to get a better understanding of how your scoring matches up, and where your IDPs fit in. But that is just the tip of the iceberg for us, because we have a lot of great things in development for this year, and I'll be excited to announce those when we get there. And I'm going to be getting myself into a little more video making this year, so I'm excited about that too. I did a TikTok, and we're going to see where this goes. But
Now it's
here
just
we
feeding
are.
that addiction, feeding that
Yeah.
addiction.
Absolutely. So with that, we are going to bring on our first guest. This is a interview that I did with Sebastian Oman, who is out of Germany, actually, and he won our IDP guys Best Ball Extravaganza. This was put on with Fantrax, and we utilized the IDP Invitational scoring, and essentially, we had it open. It was a free contest that people could join into. You had a salary cap that you had to build a team around, and you set it and forget it. Once the season started, you were just kind of watching. and there was no team management or anything. But Sebastian was able to um, kill it in this league in this contest, and so I invited him on to talk a little bit about that, as well as what he's doing in the IDP community out of Germany, which is awesome to say, spreading that around the globe. And yeah, so here it is. So welcome, Sebastian Ulaman, to the show here. We wanted to give an opportunity to talk to you today on your win with the IDP guys. We did a best ball tournament extravaganza, which had I want to say like 120 players, put on by Fan Tracks, and you were able to put together the championship roster for that. So let's jump in real quick on who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing in the fantasy community.
No. Also, first, it's an honor to be here, and yeah, I'm Sebastian Ulaman. I'm 33 years old. I'm married and have three kids, and I'm a big fan of the San Francisco 49ers. You see in the back, it's a
Nice.
Navarro Bowman. It's one of my favorite linebacker, and I had or I'm a CEO from from my community. That's the Club of Leagues. That's
Okay.
ah, that's an club, and we played many sports leagues, mainly football, but also hockey, basketball, and so on. And
Hmm.
yeah, we have many dynasties. We have uh, 32 leagues with fan tracks. We play with salary cap, and
Mm,
each manager represents a real franchise, and go on and on. And yeah, that's since 2017,
okay,
and we
that's
have
awesome.
a big community. We started in 2017 with redraft leagues, and we played with promotions and relegations since 2017, and in each league we have 20 teams,
Okay,
and so we mixed year for year the leagues between the system, or through the system, and on top we had 13 leagues. Last year we had 9 leagues, and yeah, a nice a nice community, and we have a lot of fun play fantasy.
that's awesome. So, what area of Germany are you from? I'm not very familiar, but I mean, maybe like, are you more northern, southern? Tell us a little bit about your area of the country.
Yeah, I'm from Miltenberg am Main. Sounds in German. It's in Lower Franconia, Bavaria. It's
Okay.
the north of Bavaria. It's in the near of Hessen and Baden-Württemberg.
Okay.
And yeah, that's my home. And we have many beautiful places here, like wine. Kur Franken is Kur Franconia is the word. And yeah, so it's always a pleasure if comes guys from America to us.
Awesome. Yeah. So your club of leagues, is that people that are within your community in that part of Germany? Is it spread throughout Europe? Like, kind of where are those guys at?
Yeah, it's the mean is or the most of the community is from Germany, but
Okay.
we have also guys from Switzerland, Austria, and yeah, that's all. That's the point.
Hmm. Hmm.
Germany, Austria, Switzerland.
Oh, that's awesome. And so, what got you into like American football? Most popular sport in the world is soccer, or you guys would call regular football. What got you interested in watching, this American football league?
I started watching football with um, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Hmm.
Therefore, but, because no, not because how much how in English my love for the 49ers comes from this time
Hmm.
with Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and so,
Sure.
and we had many papers with article from the
Okay.
American football, and we had one one TV station that shows us football.
Hmm.
Um, it's very hard in the uh, late 80s and early 90s to watch football in Germany, and year for year for year the community is going bigger and bigger and
Hmm.
bigger, and now it's one of the most popular sports in Germany.
Oh, okay.
Sure, soccer is on top. Soccer is on
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
It's number one. uh, Number two is not football, or it's about, it's go on and on and on, uh, way to the top.
Hmm. No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great to hear how, the sports expanding. Obviously, they had a global football team back in a league back before I really started watching football. So I can definitely understand, getting in it. It's awesome. So like the 49ers, was that because of them winning, because they were on TV, or was it like maybe parent, like a father or someone that was into that team that got you into the 49ers?
We had a familiar situation in America, and my aunt lives in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
She's dead now, but this time we have a little bit of contact, not much, but a little
Hmm.
bit, and we talked. Not me, my parents.
Hmm. Hmm.
You hear my bad English. I'm sorry for it. Um, and there was a game. I mean, it was 49ers against, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
And yeah, and I saw this, and then my love was born.
There it is. Awesome. That's really great. So now, at what point did you get into like fantasy football, and bridged over into, now we're talking about fake football and drafting teams.
My favorite thing that I do as a child or as a teen is playing manager games from soccer. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And fantasy football is a little bit of them. You can buy your team. You can change your team. You can trade, and that's the same like a soccer manager game. And that's the most famous in Germany, I think.
Hmm.
It's not on top, but it's coming.
Nice. That's
And
awesome.
for me, it was important to play with IDP.
Mm. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So you kind of reached, you wanted to take that next step, and it's a lot more complicated and a lot more, but to have a full team there for your squad, so that was important to you.
that was important. Our community playing since 2017 with IDP. Um, yeah, that's was always important for me, and um, I think a team does not only consist with offense,
Hmm.
and cannot only function with offense. And defense wins championships.
Yes,
That's
yes,
the truth.
absolutely. Yep. Well, okay, so now let's jump in. So what how'd you hear about the tournament that we put on? I'm assuming that you follow a lot of people in the IDP community on Twitter, so it just kind of came around. You saw it on Twitter and jumped in.
Yeah, yeah. I saw it on Twitter, and first step is jump in.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your team, and what went into the thought process of, how you constructed it within the best ball format.
The strategy for me was focus on the key players per position. Um, it was important for me to, yeah, especially quarterback, running back, and tight end. Receivers are very deep, and for me, Mahomes, Murray in my team, or Akela Kamara,
Hmm.
Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, and tight end Kelsey, Darren Waller, and Kittle was the key players for me in front of the team, and then stone for stone, the other guys come in my team.
Nice. And so for those that weren't in the in the tournament, it was basically a salary cap format where you had a certain number of dollars to spend, and each player had a value. Um, how did you? Where did you spin big, and where did you kind of cut back on when you were building this? I mean, I see you got Patrick Mahomes. He was probably pretty expensive. Were there other areas where you were like, man, you just got to get the big guys?
Yeah, I saw it. The big guys for me was the QBs, the tight ends,
Hmm.
and the running backs, and there I take a lot of money from my salary away, and the rest, yeah, where some favorable players who have big impact this year. I noted this, and I count Xavier McKinney, Marnie
Hmm.
Hooker, and also Chandler Jones. And I think Chandler Jones was not on every squad.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Chandler Jones definitely seemed to come out. He had a big beginning of the season that a lot of people weren't expecting. And so yeah, seeing him on your team, I also see you you stacked you got both Bosa's as
Yeah.
well as you got Garrett and Young. I mean that you so did you feel like the defensive end position was a very important one um to get right?
Yeah, and the defensive side of the ball, the linebacker group and the edge group was important for me. That's right. Yeah,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
most important for me.
Yeah, I definitely see that with you got Fred Warner, TJ Watt. I mean, that one was I had him on a few of my leagues, and generally speaking, going into this year, he was a really top edge player. But I think he came out and even as a linebacker, he's in the top of that class of that group as well. And so with this, we were also doing cornerbacks. How did you feel when picking your corners? Did you feel like was this a stretch for you? Was this like kind of new experience, or did you feel confident in the guys you picked?
I feel confidence. But shortly back to TJ Watt. TJ Watt was a tackle
Hmm.
machine, and with big play upside. This guy was a 100% pick. Yeah. And the position I neglected the most was the cornerback position.
Yeah, yeah, I can see here. I mean, you got some decent guys here. Rock Sin, Mike Hilton, Christian Fulton, Lonnie Johnson.
Lonnie Johnson, yeah.
Don't
Lonnie
know.
Johnson was one of my guys.
Yeah, yeah. And but yeah, and then switching over even so you got cornerback and then like the other kind of breakout position of defensive tackle here. Uh Aaron Donald, Christian Jones, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch right there.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, no, it's a hell of a roster you put together for the that price tag of the under the salary cap and everything.
I switched the positions 5, 6, 8, 12 days. I don't know. Every day I
Mhm.
looked, and better here, better there, and in the end, I had $7 left.
Okay, okay. That's yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Like, were you so as you were tinkering with this, and I'm sure that you jumped in early, and then there was probably I think we had like a month open that you could
Yeah.
mess around with your team. How much, you said you did a lot of tinkering. Did that fluctuate between were you trying to spend every last dollar, or were you good with having a few bucks left on the table?
I'm fine with bucks on the table. That's not my problem. I switched the last day before the roster is cut. Locked. Sorry, locked.
Hmm.
Switched one or two positions, but the key players were the key
Yeah.
players. They don't.
Yeah. So you felt very confident going into this.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
with what you had. That's awesome. Now, going throughout the season, obviously you're checking in all the time to see how you're doing. Were you when you kind of saw that you were in the upper echelon, how were you feeling?
I'm proud. I was
Yeah.
very proud. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a many talks with our guys in our Wednesday fantasy football Stammtisch.
Hmm.
It's a weekly talk platform on Discord, and we talked
Okay.
about this league or other leagues, and um, we had from our IDP guys, also German IDP guys,
Okay.
Mike's in Motion. We had three guys in the league, and the best is on position 15, also very, very good
Mhm.
playing. And we talked a little bit, and all said, "You win this, you win this, you win this." And I'm, "Oh, no, 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 keep
Mhm.
cool, keep cool."
Yeah, yeah. No, it was coming when it was coming down to the wire that last week. I know that like there were a couple guys. It was switching between a
Yeah,
couple of our guys, people I knew, and then you definitely pulled right out and landed it right at the end at that number one spot, and that was awesome. I bet you were quite nervous going into the rest of those games.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm I mean, since week 3, I'm on top of the league.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I'm in the meantime, I was a long way number one
Hmm.
since, I mean, also week 15, I fall to 3, and yeah, and in week 18, back on
Yeah.
position 1. Yeah,
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, no, this is a very great roster you put together with the price you had, and obviously it's a lot easier to look back and know the season we had rather than forward and guess that this would be the championship roster. But yeah, congrats to you.
thank you, thank you.
So this had $1,000 prize of signed jerseys and stuff, which is coming to you. I mean, I bet you're pretty excited for that. Do you have space on your wall for some framed jerseys?
I had a lot of room. Yeah, I had a lot of room.
There we go. No, looking forward to all that. Um, so before we sign off here, I want to give you a shot to just tell people what's your Twitter handle so they can follow you, and other things that you might want them to consume. Like uh, you mentioned a podcast there. Is there anything in your community that people might be
Yeah,
interested in checking out?
yeah. The podcast comes uh, aus from our community, and
Mhm.
all the guys meet in our community and make the first IDP podcast in Germany,
Okay.
only IDP podcast. And the guys is Mike's in Motion, and my community is Club of Leagues. It's also the Twitter handle, and my own Twitter handle is 49ers 1909.
Awesome. Well, Sebastian, it was great having you on here. Great to have you as the winner. I think it's very interesting to reach out and be able to talk to
I
someone
appreciate it.
from overseas in Germany there, and who enjoys this just as much. And I know, we've been doing the IDP Guys podcast for a long time, and Germany was a major player in our stats of, downloads and everything. So you guys have a great community going on there, and greatly appreciate you spending a little bit of time to come on and talk to me today.
Sure. I have to thank that I invite you here, and then the guys from Germany are very appreciate you, and we're grateful if one of our guys of your guys come to our podcast and had a little conversation. That's would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep in touch on that and make that happen. I think that's a great
That's fine.
community to support,
Cool, cool. Thank you.
and yeah. So again, thanks, Sebastian, and we'll be in touch. Have a good one.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
So in this next interview, we interviewed David Kelly, which is our IDP Invitational um, champion. And Nate, could you tell us a little bit more about the IDP Invitational?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was the second year of this charity league that we put together at IDP Guys to benefit autism awareness, which was a very key charity for a lot of the guys in our group. People that help. We're made up of people that have been touched by different elements of the autism community, whether they have a child or they work in that field helping people with autism, or they just know someone and feel passionate about it. And what was great was when we started this, we got a lot of feedback from the community of people saying that this was a priority for them in their lives, and they loved seeing the fact that we were involved and that we were putting on this charity to help the autism awareness community. And so we wanted to kind of create a Scott Fishbowl like contest, but add IDP into it so that we could create a community where you have analysts and fans playing together, and it's 120 players teams this past season, which was up from, I think it was 80 something the first year. And it's separated from in divisions, so divisions of 12, and each division has its own draft, its own waiver wire, and everything. And those divisions are set up based off of your skill level in IDP. So David, who won the league, was in the Velociraptor League, or division, and this was one of the 10 plus years experience in IDP to qualify to be in this division, which had a number of different analysts and stuff in the IDP community. And then it kind of came down from there. So then you have 3 to 9 years was our biggest amount of divisions. And then finally a couple beginner divisions for people that just wanted to dip their toes in. And now it doesn't necessarily mean that the more experienced guys were more likely to make it to the championship. What was nice is that your competition level was pretty even, so that when you're playing people that are at the same uh, competition experience as you, and that winning those games, you then got into the playoffs, which were based off of rather than head to head, they were based off of points. So you would set a lineup, and so many people would be in the playoffs, and a top percentage would advance. And as we're about to hear, David was able to put together a winning team and take it to the end and win the whole thing. So here we go. We're gonna hear from David now. But we're joined today with David and Grant. Dave here, he won our IDP Invitational, our charity league for autism awareness. And Dave, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I was Once you reached out and said that you were interested in having me on after winning this, I was excited because I haven't had a chance to do a podcast or come on someone's live stream yet. So this is definitely exciting.
Awesome. That's great. So give us a little background on, who you are, what you do in the fantasy community, because you kind of are in an interesting spot. You roam with a few different groups on fantasy Twitter, and you've been putting out your own content as well.
Yeah, I played fantasy football for a while, like probably since junior high or so, um, and probably IDP at least in some way since like the mid 2000s or so. There's a home league I have here that for the longest time we had like a normal offensive league, but then one IDP player and one team defense, and then a group of us broke off and did like a little bit of like a dynasty contract league where it was start six.
Mhm.
So I've played that for a while, and a few years ago I decided that I wanted to like actually learn a little bit more about IDP and about fantasy in general because I had gone through a phase where I had run really cold in a lot of leagues. Um, and for the longest time with that dynasty league I'm in, you just kind of pick a couple of IDPs and just go. We're scoring like 1 point per solo tackle, so it's pretty
Mhm.
muted scoring. So yeah, a few years ago, I started joining a couple other dynasty leagues on Reddit or through Reddit, listening to a couple podcasts, um, and then as I've kind of made my way through fantasy Twitter, there's a lot of stuff that I see that like offensive people put out that I just don't see on the defensive side. So for example, like rookie hit rates is something that I've spent a little bit of time doing, and I have a little blog now that I post stuff about that on. But there's lots of places to find that for the offensive players. Like Peter Howard has great stuff, and Jordan McNamara has some stuff through Analytics of Dynasty. There's a few other people, so there's actually quite a lot I think in that space in terms of like things that offensive people have done that we haven't really
Mhm.
touched yet in IDP.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are so out of Canada, one of our international friends, and you're over on the west coast of Canada, correct?
No, I'm in about central Canada.
Oh,
So
okay,
so I'm in Winnipeg, so we're sort of directly above North Dakota. North Dakota and Minnesota.
gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. For some reason, I'm really bad with Canadian geography, so apologize on that.
Yeah, we would still be considered Western Canada here.
Gotcha. Alrighty, there we go. So, well, we didn't get to like who's your favorite team, and what got you into watching football in general.
Especially American football.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm nominally a Denver Broncos fan. That I don't think I follow them as much as like most American fans would follow their own team. But I mean, here in Canada, like things are pretty fluid. Like we don't really have much. Like there is no home team here. We do have a lot of Vikings fans here because Minneapolis is about 8 hours driving from here. Um, but other than that, it's pretty scattered. Like all of my friends are kind of scattered between different teams. I've got a group of Cowboys fans and a couple Vikings fans, and there's a guy who's a Titans fan, and so on and so on and so on. As far as starting to watch football, I guess sometime in junior high, like I remember um, going into junior high and like making side bets with friends on Monday Night Football. Um, I remember NFL Blitz came out in Nintendo 64. I played that all the time with one of my
Yep.
best friends. Um, so it would have started there.
Gotcha. Awesome. So let's get a little bit into the IDP Invitational. For those that don't know about it, it's a essentially an IDP version of the Scott Fish Bowl that we run at IDP Guys as a invitational. So it means that you have to sign up, and then from the signups we pull our invites, and it is some unique scoring. There is full complement of IDP and the offensive positions, as well as it is premium for both tight ends and cornerbacks. What about that? You mentioned that you had a little FOMO for missing out the first year. What about it enticed you? What attracted you to sign up?
Uh, I think I just liked it because there was a lot of people that I either follow on Twitter or whatnot who are just in it and talking about it and talking about their drafts last year. Um, Maybe not as many people as I had hoped. Like I was kind of hoping that I would see the big three guys floating around in this tournament, and they either forgot to sign up or didn't. There's a few other people. I think actually this tournament could be a lot bigger, and you could kind of have everybody who is an analyst in one form or another
Hmm.
playing in this. I think that would actually be a really good idea. Um, and out of that, I kind of like the format. I haven't really been inclined to sign up for the Scott Fish Bowl itself, but obviously you hear an enormous
Hmm.
amount about the Scott Fish Bowl throughout the year on Twitter. You see people analyzing the scoring. I think we saw like a week of people debating viability of kickers in that tournament.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Um, so it definitely is an interesting tournament, and I definitely wanted to like play in something like this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a whole culture around the Scott Fish Bowl in the community where like I'm part of a group that creates avatars for um, for the people playing and everything, and it all centers around um, donating to a charity. So Scott Fish has Fantasy Cares, which donates to Toys for Tots, buying toys for their Christmas, and we have Autism Awareness, which we raised for this year. I think we got close to $5,000 total, which with 120 people that played, I think that was pretty awesome. And hopefully, I really want to see this thing grow even more. Hopefully, from this video, people will go and sign up at idpguys.org and click the IDP Invitational button there on the front page and sign up. Grant, do you have any questions for David?
Yeah, I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You have your home draft that you guys were doing with one IDP, and you started learning about more Dynasty. Touch on how you started getting into more Dynasty, how you started getting into more IDP. What were you reading? Who were you following on Twitter? If you would just touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah, that original league that started one IDP, we ran that for a bit, and then I think 5 or 6 years ago we ended up dropping it and just doing a normal team defense, and that was it. And that was less because people didn't like the IDP. That was just because the draft was too long, and it was like an 18-round draft, and we did it in person. And for a long time, we had a group of guys who made it their mission to do like a beer a pick. And we had a year where like we didn't finish the last 4 rounds of the draft. It's like we had people passed out and people had to go. So for sort of practical reasons for that league, we had to get rid of IDP. The other league that was more of like that contract dynasty kind of league, one of my friends just found rules online for how you do an auction and how the contracts would go from year to year and what a rookie scale would be. And they just thought that was really interesting and wanted to try it, so we did that. So we started that with like a 7-hour in-person auction where we went around and filled up teams, and then every year it's a little bit easier now, as you just have a couple-hour auction where we still all get together. We all wear hats. Once you're stopped being another player, you take off your hat, and we kind of do it that way. That draft's a lot of fun because you just see players get run up, and you can laugh at your friends and make fun of them. It's actually a really good time. But as far as like resources for IDP, like early on, not a whole lot. I used to go to fftoday.com a lot just for ranks and things like that, or even other articles. Like I think I was clearing stuff out the other day, and I had Mike Clay articles from when he was writing over there. And that was kind of it for the first few years. And then the last couple of years, once I started like reaching out a little bit more, listening to podcasts and things like that. So the first one I would have come across would have been IDP Nation, when it was still Daryl and Dan Cook. Actually, it would have been, I think actually it was still Edge Crushers. It was right before they changed their name. So I would have come across them. I came across, I think IDP 411 at the time was the show, and that one's no longer around. Big Three I would have come around, and that one's kind of funny because I know at one point on Reddit, there is another one now, but there was an IDP subreddit, and someone had asked for like podcast recommendations, and I started listing off all these shows. And at the time, I'd only listened to Big Three for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I was still having trouble like figuring out whose voice was whose. So like if you listen to that show, like Adam does a lot of yelling, but I couldn't tell if that was Adam or Bobby. So I was just very confused by the show. So I wrote in the comments on Reddit that I didn't think they were very funny. And a couple weeks later, they tagged me on an Instagram post with their show notes, and I went and listened to the episode, and they spent 5 minutes like making fun of me on the episode and going through my Reddit history and things like that. So sort of through that, I've kind of gotten to know them a lot better, and I definitely I still listen to their show quite a bit. I talk to Adam on Twitter quite a bit in direct messages. So yeah, awesome. that would sort of be where I started with that. I've probably come across the IDP guys site here and there.
Yeah, but absolutely. Yeah, I think I was a mod of that Reddit probably around that time.
So if you had to do it all again, would you change anything? Like if somebody was looking to get into Dynasty and had no idea where to start, what would some of your tips be?
I don't know if I have any good tips. I think I'm still trying to figure that out. As far as like Dynasty specifically, I kind of started on Reddit and then sort of migrated my way over to Twitter. Um, but I don't know. I don't know if I have any really good tips
Hmm.
for starting in that. I like the format. I like kind of looking at the rookies when they come in, but but yeah, it's just kind of a preference of mine.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the draft for the Invitational. What was your, I guess, strategy going into that? And was there anything that you did different in this compared to, say, another league?
The thing that was really, I guess, influential for me as I was getting ready for this is I had listened to a podcast that was, I think it was on the ship chasing feed. So it was Peter Overzet, Pat Crane, and Davis Maddock, and they did it right at the beginning of the Scott Fish Bowl, and they were just talking strategy there. So they were going over things like the importance of quarterbacks in this format because the points that get scored for completions and then taken away for sacks and interceptions changes that position so much. Like if you have terrible quarterback play, like you just get crushed in this league. And I think a lot of people saw that. Like I ended up with Aaron Rodgers in this league, who did quite well down the stretch, but he put up like a -9 in that week 1 game against New Orleans where they just got kind of rolled over. That was the one where like Rodgers had missed most of camp because of
Mhm.
contract issues and things like that. They're big zero running back guys, so that probably influenced this draft as well as any other draft I didn't redraft this year. So I took I was picking at the 12 spot. I took Saquon Barkley in the first round, and I ended up not taking another running back until I think the 18th.
Okay.
Um, and kind of filled up my roster that way with receivers and things like that. Which that's not to say that that is like the ideal strategy or anything like that. It just happened to work out for me here.
Mm.
So
So
with taking Saquon on him being injured, was that kind of freaking you out a little bit?
The slow start freaked me out a little bit, and then he had those couple stronger weeks in weeks like 3 and 4. But then once he got hurt, that was a little bit frustrating that you just picked the guy and he didn't really help you out. The thought with taking Saquon early was I had read another Pat Crane article that he had done at NBC Sports Edge, and he'd done a couple articles on like elite running back seasons and where those players come from and what kind of things you're looking for from them. Like you're looking for some amount of receiving, and you're looking for players who have the potential to be like 25 point a week players, like those kind of things. And a lot of those players, at least historically, have come out of the first couple rounds. So any of these guys, and I'm just looking at my draft board, but we had McCaffrey taken second, Kamara taken third, Dalvin Cook went sixth, Ezekiel Elliott went seventh, Derrick Henry went eighth, um, Jonathan Taylor in the second round. So taking Saquon there was I was just trying to take a shot of someone who could potentially have a season like that where they score, 20, 25 points a game. Didn't happen. Um, but that was the thought when I with that pick.
mm, gotcha. So at what point did you dive into the IDPs? And I believe so we were in the same division. So we
Yeah,
were
we were in the
drafting
same division.
together. Yeah. So take me back. How did we handle IDPs, and where did you end up actually diving in at?
So you were actually the first person in our division to start. So you had the first pick, and you opened up IDPs at the 4 or 5 turn where you took Roquan and Darius Leonard. And most people took their first IDP kind of in between there. So Devin White went right after you took Darius Leonard. Blake Martinez went to Joey in the 5th round. There was a couple safeties and linebackers in the 6th. Um, I opened up my IDPs in the 7th round. I took Fred Warner at 7-12. But for me, as far as IDPs went, I wasn't really sure how to handle it, and I didn't really want to get sort of too far ahead or too far behind where everybody else in the draft was going. So I was very much just counting how many IDPs were taken every time I got to my turn and trying to at least kind of keep that kind of pace with everybody else. So
Gotcha.
without counting, I think Fred Warner ends up being like the 11th or 12th or 13th IDP that gets taken in this draft.
And so did you have to do any like waiver wire searching to be able to keep up? Like, did you have a position that was just so wanting that you needed to replace it, or did you come out of the draft with essentially your championship team?
No, I was planning that there was going to be a lot of waiver moves in this, and one of the things that's quite a bit different about this compared to the Scott Fish Bowl is the Scott Fish Bowl is start 11, but there's 11 on the bench. In this one, it's the 11 offense, 11 defense, and 8 on the bench. Um, and we're running 5 positions for defense, so you actually don't get to keep each of one position on your bench. Like your bench is quite limiting here. So one of the things I thought about quite a bit, especially as we were finishing this draft, is trying to prioritize like which positions I wanted to have on my bench, which like where I was looking for upside, and then which positions I was just either gonna completely stream or carry no backups and just try and figure out how to make it work on a bye week. So cornerback was a position that I did that with. I waited till the very end to take a corner, and then I pretty much streamed them every week. Defensive tackle, I didn't take a backup. I think I ended up with a bench with mostly running backs and receivers, especially because I had waited on running back in the middle of the draft. I had to grab a couple at the end and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
at least have something there. Linebacker was really important in this draft because we're scoring 2 points per solo, so I tried to pick up an extra linebacker at the end of the bench just to have enough guys. Um, I know you can always find linebacker on waivers, but with this one being start 3 and a flex, I didn't want to count on trying to stream 4 linebackers. I wanted to at least try and get a couple that I could count on every week.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds like a good strategy that obviously it worked out for you. Now did you have any issues with injuries, COVID going through that maybe you might have dropped a game or had like not the best finish within the season? Or were you pretty good with your players, like no one really went out on you?
COVID, I think I had a couple problems towards the end with guys missing games, but I don't know if it ever affected individual weeks. I definitely had players I drafted that just got hurt and they were gone. Like Jamal Adams, I picked, he was
Mhm.
lost for the season. I had Donnell Hunter on this team who was great, and then he tore his pec and was gone. Um, so there's a few guys on here. I drafted Bradley Chubb, and he was hurt at the beginning of the year, so I switched him out for somebody else. So there's a few people,
Mhm.
but I don't think I ever had a week where I was super tough to set a lineup.
No, the big bye week, I think it was week 7. Did that much of effect on your team? Or were you trying to draft based on bye weeks as well?
I didn't look too much at the bye weeks. As far as 7 goes, I don't think I had too many guys in it because bye week 7 was like the Bills, Jaguars, Vikings bye week, right? There's a few others in there.
I think it was
Mhm.
that big bye apocalypse is what they were calling it. I don't remember off the top of my head what teams those were.
Yeah, they got to stop giving us 6 teams on a bye at once. Like that is just yeah, Buffalo, Dallas, Jacksonville, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and Chargers were all on
Mm,
bye this week. So no, the way it worked out, I didn't have a whole lot of exposure to those teams, so that week wasn't too bad. I know I
Gotcha.
had a week where I had 2 safeties on bye. That was tough. Um, I think some of the later ones.
Mm, okay. So now getting into the playoffs and where you actually went on to win the league. Now for this, it was also similar to Scott Fish Bowl, which instead of doing head-to-head playoffs, it was by points based, and so you set a lineup, and then if if you're in the top percentage um, of the league in points, or for the amount of people within the playoffs, you got to advance. How was it for you going through that? Did you have any time where you felt like you might not make it, or were you pretty confident and within the top of the players advancing with your team?
I got pretty lucky during playoff weeks. I think the only week where I was close was the second playoff week, which I can't pull up at the moment. But most weeks through the playoffs, I got lucky and got some good performances from players and had pretty high finishes.
Nice. So that's awesome. So, well, so you went on, you won, you were the top scoring team for that final week, and with that came some benefits of we had a $500 prize that will be sent to you with it in the form of NFL merchandise that is signed. And then you got a free subscription to IDP guys and 4 for 4, and then being able to come on here. So congratulations for going through and winning the league, and for coming on the show. And thank you for coming on the show, not congratulations. But before we sign off here and let you go, if you want to just let everyone know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and any content that you're putting out that you want to kind of highlight.
Yeah, sure. My Twitter is at DJ Keltown, so DJKELLTOWN. You can follow me there or not. And then I've got a little blog that I post things to occasionally. The big one was the hit rates for rookies for Dynasty Leagues, because that's something that I was really interested in. So that site is supersmashpros.football. And then I have one article at IDP Guys where I did some charts of ADP and positional and like final scores for this league.
Mhm.
I've got to badger a few more people to go read it, but I think there's some interesting things in there as far as like draft structure, as far as like what positions look like in terms of like where players are drafted versus how many points they score. Um, there's a big image at the bottom that's basically the rosters of all 10 teams that made the finals. And if you look at it, there's actually quite a bit of difference between how everybody attacked their drafts. There's people who drafted IDP really, really early. There's people who waited really, really late. There's people who prioritized different positions. Johnny was in the league. He prioritized defensive tackle. Um, I think he was one of the only ones in the finals who did that. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting to go back and look at that kind of stuff, because sometimes your fantasy season finishes and you sort of crumple it up and throw it in the bin and don't think about it again until you get to the next one. But I think there's at least something to learn if you go back and look at what you did and how things played out.
So
Yeah.
David, before we let you go, give us your MVP for your offense and MVP for your IDP. Who would those be?
So I'll do it for this league. As I had Joe Burrow in the final week, so he is clearly my offensive MVP. And then on the defensive side, I think I probably have to give it to Alex Highsmith, because I got down fairly close to the end where um, there was me and one other person. I had Highsmith and I think a 14-point lead going into Monday Night Football, and he had Anthony Walker and MJ Stewart. Um, so I remember watching that game very anxiously, hoping that I would hold on to that lead, and that lead shrank to about 4 points somewhere around halftime. And then as the game went on, like Pittsburgh had quite a few sacks in the second half, and Highsmith managed to get 2 sacks. He finished with 7 tackles in that game. So he will be my defensive MVP based on the 1 week.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
it was his best week of the season, at least in this scoring.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. For everyone out there, make sure that you are following him at DJ Keltown on Twitter, as well as sign up for the IDP Guys Autism Awareness Invitational. Go to idpguys.org. There's a link on the front page. Just sign up and be part of this awesome, awesome charity league. So with that, David, thank you again for coming on, and we'll be talking again soon.
Sure. Thanks a lot, guys.
So Nate, after talking to David here, it's pretty impressive that he missed last year's IDP Invitational, and then he got in here and ended up winning it. How impressive do you think that is?
That was awesome. I was very happy to see him, you know, want to be a part of it because he reached out to me last summer and wanted to put some information together from the previous year. And I told him, I was like, hey, definitely make sure you get in and, put your name in to sign up for this. And putting him in the league, I put him actually was in the same division with him, and just very happy that he was able to take it and win the whole thing. Very impressive. I think he had a lot to say on um, his strategy on drafting and playing, and he put a lot of time and effort into making sure that he did come out the victor.
Yeah, and what's amazing about both winners, both Sebastian and David, they are not U.S. based. They are Canadian and Germany based, and just goes to show you that football is worldwide and it's growing faster than we know
Hmm.
about.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us here, US based and just creating football content, oftentimes we think about our peers in the US and not so much about those internationally. And maybe it's time to really kind of open up and think more about, those guys that are, choosing to watch the NFL rather than being born into it necessarily, like, some of us here in the US. So it was awesome to see. Great interviews with these guys. Absolutely loved it, and hope that everyone out there follows them and enjoyed those interviews as well.
Absolutely, and I think it's time to start giving some awards out to our own staff.
Yes, absolutely. So we got a couple here, and I'm gonna kind of, we're gonna announce the topic, and then I'll give the award, and we can talk about that person here. So the first one I'm gonna give out is the most viewed article in 2021. So this is the single article that got the most views and brought in the most traffic for us, and that is rookie linebacker projections by Joey the Tooth. Uh, Put together this back in the rookie season last year, early in the year, and it absolutely killed it this year. So, congrats to you, Joey, for that. Grant, what do you think? What are your takes on that kind of content and what Joey did this year?
Yeah, that rookie linebacker class was very impressive. So there was a lot of buzz around the top four guys: Micah Parsons, JOK, and the other two that were in that class as well. I'm blanking on their names, but Joey came came through on that article, and it showed. He had a great year writing.
So for the next award that we have is the most viewed in the season. So this is going from beginning week 1 to week 17, and that was the week 2 waiver wire article for IDP by Kyle Bellafuel. And if he's listening, Kyle, you need to give me props for I hopefully pronounced your last name correctly. So
Yeah, that's a tough last name.
yeah, yeah, it is. So usually he's referred to as Kyle B because no one wants to actually pronounce that last name. But Kyle killed it this year with the IDP waiver wire articles, and it really peaked. I mean, week 2, everyone's trying to figure things out, and so putting that content out, that advice, really hooked people. And Kyle, this is his second year doing this column in season, and it's people have been taking notice. The IDP Guru linked to that article specifically for his users to go and check out. So it was really great to see Kyle bring it back, do it for another year, and help people win their leagues.
Yeah, and with it being week 2, you got people that aren't happy with their drafts, so they're really trying to figure out who are we picking up on waiver wires. And if you have not read his articles, the amount of detail he goes into is unbelievable. So good job, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to most prolific writer last year in the season. Uh, that goes to Brandon Haye, who was putting together 2+ articles a week in the season, and he focused more on the college football, the NCAA, both the IDP and offense. But he just killed it with content, and really great stuff coming from him. And he was doing it before the season as well with many of his articles. And he came to us new last year. So it's cool to see someone kind of join the team and then just put their foot on the pedal and on the gas and just keep rolling. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, so if you're looking at what's coming up in the future to like the NFL ranks, Brendan's articles are a great read. Now he's actually doing more of them on video. So if you want to take a listen or take a watch and watch those videos that he's putting out weekly about these college players, uh, make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, his podcast with us is Decoding Devi, which is both on our YouTube channel as well as our podcast network, which is IDP Guys Network on Apple, Google Play, all of the different. Yeah, I'd suggest doing it on Spotify. I think that's where I get those podcasts. But great show, and he brings on some different interviews each week as well. So good stuff there. The final staff award that we're going to give out here. Now, everyone on staff deserves an award for getting through the season and, putting up with me and everything. So, but we're going to give out one more, and that's going to be clutch rankings. And that's going to Logan. And he went through the full season just killing it at redraft rankings for every week, putting out those rankings. And Logan on Twitter at Sports Talk Smart, he'd come on the Start Sit shows, share his advice, and really kind of killed it this year. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, he was the reason we probably had most of our views on the start sit. Everybody wanted to hear what Logan had to say because he also does an eye test for his rankings. If I'm correct.
All right, so we're also going to do some shout out awards. This is where I'm just going to kind of rattle through some names of people that just we couldn't have done it without. Uh, Faith and Steve, our head editor, and now our content manager. Dynasty Santa, FF Leap of Faith. Absolutely would not have been able to get through the season without them. They're the reason we were able to put out our great articles, keep everything rolling. Absolutely, thank you for being part of the IDP guys. Johnny the Greek, he is one of my best friends. We started this whole thing together. He put out the monster this year, which if is a massive article that he then turned into a series of audio clips that went through every single matchup, and he would talk through snap counts, uh, the points for the different positions in IDP on every single team for every single week. And so just absolute monster of content that went out, and looking forward to next year, which may become a video series. So awesome work there, Johnny. Jace Abbey, he came on, and so he's been with us before. He came back, and then this year he just killed it with the start sit for IDP. So much content. I think his articles were like 20,000 words. Same thing, going player by player, team by team, matchup by matchup, and making sure that everyone had just the absolute best information. Jace, he's a great guy. He's also an international writer for us, and just he's now working also with DLF. So we're sharing him a little bit with other brands, but just great. Thank you so much, Jace, for what you did for us this season. Moving on, we got Clinton and Will Skinny Chef. These guys just absolutely blew it away between, Clinton was doing DFS content. Will, he was doing the injury reports, but they were both jumping on doing TikToks and video content for us that just, help things keep going, help us build upon the YouTube channel we're putting together. So, Clinton, Will, thank you so much. And then also here, Fantasy Ladder, Steve Utes. He was also part of the injury report team. And, week in, week out, put in great content, great work. And very happy to have had him on the team and working with us. I got two more here to go through. Obviously, if I missed anyone, I am deeply sorry. I don't mean to, miss anybody, but it does happen. Morgan and Grant here, they both stepped up huge this year to help us with YouTube was Grant's work, and Morgan putting in time for creating the ADP month after month, pulling in anybody and everybody that could help mock, to go through those mock drafts and create the data that we put together. So thank you guys so much for what you do. And like I said, anyone that I'm missing, Grant, can you think of anyone that I've missed?
Not off the top of my head, I think you pretty much touched on everybody. But I'm sure they can all thank you for bringing everybody on and giving us a chance of writing or video content or editing, whatever everybody does. And
Yeah, I love being part of the team and doing this and just seeing where we grow and what we do. Shout out to your dad, Keith Gillen, for coming on as an investor this year, and and the advice that we've gotten from Ricky Rodriguez, who has also been helping us behind the scenes. It's been an amazing year, and I'm looking forward to 2022 just being even better. So,
yeah, and we've got a whole slew of new writers that are excited and already putting out new articles. So I think 2022 is going to be even a better year than this past season.
yeah, absolutely. So here's to the coming year and more people from our staff joining us at the Fantasy Football Expo in August to kick off the next season. So for everyone out there, it's January. If you're in the northern United States, stay warm. It is very cold out there. And if you're in Florida, um, man, I wish I had your weather. But so follow me at Nate Cheat on Twitter. You can follow Grant at Grant_Gilliland. There are 3 L's in that name, just to point that out for everyone so you don't misspell it. Go to idpguys.org. Make sure and become a subscriber. We've got some great content for you this year that you won't want to miss out on. We've got a draft kit that we're putting together for IDP, redraft, and then we've got our rookie guides, which will benefit those in Dynasty, and just awesome stuff to add on to your subscription and to make sure you consume and win your leagues. Definitely get into the subscriber chat, 24/7 access to all the analysts that are on staff, as well as all of the other managers that are in the chat that love to chime in and help people win their leagues, bouncing ideas and everything. So just a great place. And, follow IDP Guys on Twitter, on Facebook at IDP Guys. Other than that, Grant, you got any last second thoughts that we need to cover?
No, I think we've covered everything, and I think we can wrap this up.
Awesome. Well, for that, we put we closed the book on 2021 and look forward to all that's coming in 2022.